You've probably heard this phrase a million times, right? Bring your whole self to work. It sounds great, but let's be honest, it can also feel kinda complicated, maybe even a little risky. So today, we're gonna cut through all the corporate jargon and figure out what this actually means, and more importantly, how you can make it work without putting your career on the line.
So let's just start with a really direct question. Do you wear a mask at work? I don't mean a literal one, of course. I'm talking about that professional persona. You know, the work you. That version that's maybe a little more polished, a little less, well, you. Just think about it for a second. Do you ever hold back certain opinions, or hide parts of your personality, or maybe even downplay your background?
And hey, if you answered yes to any of that, you are definitely not alone. There's actually a name for this. It's called covering, and it's incredibly common. It's when we either consciously or unconsciously hide these different aspects of who we are, our beliefs, our family situation, what we're truly passionate about, because we have this feeling that it's what's required to fit in, to get ahead, and to be seen as a professional.
But see, this creates what you could call the two selves problem. And trying to maintain these two separate identities, your work self and your real self, well, that comes with a pretty significant hidden cost.
And believe me, these costs are very, very real. Just think of covering as running this really complex program in the background of your mind all day long. It is emotionally exhausting. It just drains the mental energy you could be using for, actual creative problem solving. It leads to you feeling disengaged, like you're there physically, but your mind is just checked out. And the result? Your best, most unique ideas, they never even get shared. And ultimately, your satisfaction with your job just tanks.
So if covering is the problem, is authenticity the big solution? Well, yes, but we have to be super clear about what we actually mean by that. It's time to move beyond the buzzword and get to a definition that we can actually use.
And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of it. See, authenticity at work isn't about just saying whatever you want with no filter. It's about aligning what you do with what you truly value. But, and this is key, it has to respect the context of the workplace. And, most crucially, it can only happen if it's enabled by psychological safety. Without that last piece, you're not encouraging authenticity, you're just asking people to take a huge personal risk. Okay, so this is where we really need to get clear about that balance. Authenticity is about valuing different perspectives and sharing relevant insights that come from your unique experience. It is about being true to your core values. What it isn't is radical transparency, where every single thought just comes flying out. It's not oversharing, personal drama, and it is definitely not an excuse to have zero professional boundaries. At the end of the day, it's about being genuine, not unprofessional. All right, so if we can get this right, what's in it for us? What's the payoff? Turns out, it is huge. And not just for us as individuals, but for the entire organization. And this isn't just some feel-good idea either. There's some really compelling data behind it. I mean, just look at this number. A potential 36% increase in team performance. So why? Why does this happen? Well, it's because when people feel psychologically safe enough to actually be themselves, they're way more willing to take smart risks, to admit when they've made a mistake, and to offer up those unconventional ideas that lead to breakthroughs. That is a massive performance boost, and it's directly tied to creating the right environment.
And you can see that link to innovation so clearly right here. High-inclusion teams, the ones where authenticity can actually thrive, they just produce more. Innovation isn't born from groupthink, where everyone just nods along. It's born from the constructive friction that happens when different, authentic viewpoints can come together safely.
And it's not just about performance. It's also about keeping your best people around. We often think that people leave their jobs mainly for more money, right? But look at this. An inclusive culture where being authentic is actually valued is right up there with the big ones, like compensation and career growth. People want to stay in a place where they feel like they truly belong and can just be themselves. So how do we create this kind of environment? This quote just puts it perfectly. It has to start at the top. An authentic workplace culture doesn't just happen by magic or by accident. It has to be intentionally designed and cared for by leadership.
Which brings us to our final section. And it's the really practical part. How do we actually build the psychological safety that makes it possible for everyone to be authentic at work?
For leaders, it really boils down to these 3 steps. First, you've got to model vulnerability. Now, this doesn't mean oversharing your whole life story. It just means being human. Admit when you don't have the answer or when you've made a mistake. Second,
Actively ask for feedback and then thank people for it, especially when it's tough to hear. And third, you have to protect dissent. When someone disagrees, you need to frame it as a chance for everyone to learn, not as a personal challenge.
But look, this isn't just on the leaders. We all have a part to play here. You could start small, test the waters by sharing one small, relevant insight you might have otherwise held back. Find allies, people who get it. Know your own boundaries and get comfortable communicating them clearly. And maybe, most importantly, offer the same respect and safety to your colleagues that you want for yourself. It really is a two-way street.
If you take away only one single thing from our time together, please let it be this. The crucial point is that authenticity without psychological safety is just risk. That's it. You cannot ask people to be vulnerable and to be authentic if you haven't first done the really hard work of creating an environment where it's actually safe for them to do so.
And so that leaves us with one final, very practical question for you. Whether you're a leader or a member of a team, what's one barrier to authenticity, maybe for yourself or for a colleague, that you can help remove this week? Because building this kind of culture, it really just happens one small intentional act at a time.